People say they're tired of conflict, but their eyes linger on it. Their thumbs slow down, not because they enjoy chaos, but because controversy feels like meaning in a world that feels flat. At its core, our attraction to controversial content has very little to do with opinion, intelligence, or morality. It has much more to do with how the human mind learned to survive long before screens existed. The human brain was never built to search for balance. It was built to detect disruption. For most of human history, stability was the default. What mattered were changes, anything that felt off, threatening, or emotionally charged. Conflict meant danger. Disagreement meant risk. Strong signals demanded attention, because ignoring them could cost survival. That wiring never disappeared. It just found a new environment. Today, controversy acts like a mental alarm bell. It creates contrast in a world that otherwise feels smooth, repetitive, and emotionally flat. When everything scrolls by at the same speed, conflict stands out. It interrupts. It feels important, even when it isn't. And that interruption gives us something we're quietly missing, a sense of engagement. Not entertainment. Engagement. Controversial content makes us feel involved without requiring action. We don't have to change anything, solve anything, or commit to anything. We just have to react. And reaction is easy. Reaction gives us a temporary sense of clarity. When a topic is framed as right versus wrong, us versus them, truth versus lies, the world suddenly feels simpler. Even if the issue itself is complex, the framing removes ambiguity. And ambiguity is mentally exhausting. Modern life is full of uncertainty. Careers are unstable. Futures are unclear. Social roles are constantly shifting. In that environment, controversy offers something deceptively comforting, a clear position to stand on, even if only for a moment. That's why people often say they hate drama while constantly consuming it. What they actually hate is prolonged emotional noise. What they crave is momentary certainty. Controversial content provides that certainty by narrowing the lens. It doesn't ask us to think broadly. It asks us to choose sides. And choosing sides feels like control. There's also another layer that's rarely acknowledged: identity reinforcement. When we engage with controversy, we're not just reacting to information. We're quietly reaffirming who we are, what we believe, what kind of person we think we are not. Every controversial topic offers an implicit question. Where do you stand? Answering that question, even silently, strengthens a sense of self. In a fragmented world where identity feels fluid and unstable, this reinforcement can feel grounding. That's why controversy spreads faster than neutral explanations. Neutrality doesn't validate identity. Conflict does. And then there's the role of repetition. The brain learns patterns through exposure. The more often we engage with controversial content, the more familiar that mental state becomes. Over time, the mind starts associating stimulation with tension rather than curiosity or calm. At that point, controversy stops being something we encounter occasionally. It becomes the default lens through which we consume information. This is where fatigue quietly sets in, because controversy is energizing in the short term, but draining over time. It keeps the nervous system slightly activated. Not enough to cause immediate stress, but enough to prevent deep rest. People don't notice this right away. They just feel vaguely tired, less patient, less able to focus, more reactive. They scroll more, not because they want more content, but because they're looking for the same level of stimulation they've become accustomed to. And the platforms respond accordingly. Algorithms don't understand truth, value, or meaning. They understand attention. They detect where your focus lingers, where your behavior changes, where your scrolling slows down. They don't create the attraction to controversy. They amplify it. If calm content is background noise, controversial content is a spike. And systems designed to optimize engagement will always favor spikes. This creates a feedback loop. We pause on controversy, it appears more often. We become more sensitive to it. Neutral content feels dull. We pause even more. Over time, this loop reshapes how we process information itself. Instead of asking, "Is this true?" we ask, "How does this make me feel?" Instead of curiosity, we develop reflexes. And reflex-based consumption leaves very little room for reflection. The most subtle consequence of this isn't outrage or polarization. It's shallowness. Not intellectual shallowness, but emotional depth. When the mind is constantly stimulated by tension, it loses tolerance for slow understanding. Complex ideas feel heavy. Nuanced discussions feel unsatisfying. Silence feels uncomfortable. And yet, many people sense that something is missing. They don't necessarily want less information. They want more meaning. But meaning doesn't arrive through constant stimulation. It emerges through synthesis, distance, and time. Things that controversy actively disrupts. This is why stepping back from controversial content often feels uncomfortable at first. Not because it's boring, but because the nervous system has adapted to a certain level of intensity. Calm feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliarity is often mistaken for emptiness. The key insight here is not that controversy is bad or that people should avoid it entirely. Conflict has always been part of human progress. Disagreement can clarify values and expose hidden assumptions. The issue arises when controversy becomes the primary way we engage with reality. When every topic is consumed through tension, we lose the ability to sit with complexity without immediately reacting to it. At that point, attention is no longer a choice. It's a habit. Understanding this changes the conversation. It shifts the focus away from blaming individuals or platforms and toward recognizing a shared psychological pattern. We are not weak for being drawn to controversy. We are human, but awareness creates space. Once we see how and why our attention is pulled, we regain the option to decide what deserves it. And that decision, quiet, internal, unannounced, is where depth slowly returns. Not through avoidance, but through intention.